The roulette wheel spun, a blur of red and black. John's heart raced, his eyes glued to the whirling ball. He'd been coming to the casino every night for months. The flashing lights, the clinking coins, the promise of easy money. It was intoxicating. At first, it was just a bit of fun, a way to unwind after a long day. He'd win some, he'd lose some. It was all part of the game. But lately, the losses were piling up, and the wins were few and far between. John told himself he could stop anytime. He was in control. He just needed one big win to get back on track. But deep down, a knot of fear twisted in his gut. He knew he was in too deep. The thrill of the gamble had morphed into a desperate need, a compulsion he couldn't shake. He chased losses with bigger bets, his mind consumed by numbers and odds. The casino had become his sanctuary, his escape from the mounting problems at home. He wasn't blind to the worried glances from his wife Sarah. He saw the disappointment in her eyes, heard the unspoken questions in her voice. He knew his gambling was hurting her, hurting their family, but the lure of the next bet, the desperate hope of winning it all back, drowned out the guilt and shame. He was caught in a vicious cycle, spinning out of control. John's life began to unravel thread by thread. The bills piled up on the kitchen counter, ignored and unopened. His once prized possessions began to disappear, pawned off for a fraction of their worth. His once jovial demeanor turned sullen, his laughter replaced with a strained silence. He withdrew from family life, his mind consumed by the next bet, the next chance to win it all back.
Sarah watched in despair as the man she loved disappeared before her eyes. The weight of their financial troubles pressed down on her, stealing her joy and replacing it with a constant gnawing anxiety. The laughter of their children, once a source of comfort, now felt like a painful reminder of what they were losing. She tried to talk to John, to reason with him, to make him see the destruction he was causing. But her words were met with anger, denial, and empty promises.
The once warm atmosphere of their home turned icy with resentment and unspoken accusations. Meals were eaten in silence, punctuated by the clatter of forks and the heavy sighs of disappointment. Bedtime stories for their children became strained, the joy gone from John's voice, replaced by a weary obligation. Sarah felt herself drowning in the wreckage of their shattered dreams, her heart breaking for the life they once had, the future she feared they would never reclaim. The final straw came on a cold December evening. Sarah had just tucked their children into bed, their innocent faces etched with worry. She found John hunched over the kitchen table, his face illuminated by the cold glow of his phone. He was gambling online, his eyes glazed over, oblivious to the world around him. The despair that had been simmering within Sarah boiled over.
"This has to stop, John," she said, her voice trembling with suppressed anger and fear.
John didn't even look up.
"Just one more bet," he muttered, his voice flat and emotionless.
That's when Sarah knew. He was gone. The man she loved, the father of her children, was lost in the depths of his addiction. A wave of cold, hard reality washed over her. She had to make a choice, not just for herself, but for their children. With a heart heavy with grief and a steely resolve, Sarah made the most difficult decision of her life. She packed a bag for herself and their children. As they drove away from the only home they had ever known, Sarah glanced back one last time. John was still seated at the table, his back to the window, oblivious to their departure. Tears streamed down Sarah's face, but through the pain, she felt a flicker of hope. She had saved her children from the wreckage. Now, she had to pray that John would find a way to save himself.
You've come a long way. Remember, it's okay to stumble sometimes. What's important is that you get back up.
For the first time in a long while, he felt a sense of hope. The road ahead was still uncertain, but with support, he believed he could make it.
It's important to acknowledge the impact of your actions. Taking responsibility is the first step toward change.
The husband begins to understand the gravity of his gambling addiction. With the counselor's guidance, he starts to see the path to recovery.
Recovery is a journey, not a destination. It requires commitment and support.
We're here for you. Together, we can help you stay on track.
With his sister and counselor by his side, the husband takes his first steps on the road to recovery, learning to manage his impulses and rebuild his life.
Trust is something that has to be earned back, slowly, one step at a time.
We believe in you. Just keep showing us that you're committed to change.
Dad, I just want things to be normal again.
Can we really trust you this time?
Rebuilding trust is a challenging process, but with every small victory, the family begins to heal and reconnect.
We've come a long way, and I'm proud of the progress we've made.
I feel like we're a real family again.
Things are finally looking up.
With dedication and support, the family looks forward to a brighter future, filled with hope and renewed bonds.